Catholic Moments, Episode 97, Steve Moser and Michael Sortino.
Finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Well, thanks, Eric, and welcome everyone to another episode of Catholic Moments, the show from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. And I want to warn you up front that today's episode is going to be nice and leisurely and long, so sit back and relax, maybe break this up into two listenings. We've got two great interviews to share with you this week, and lots of news and information, contest information, announcements, information about great new podcasts, and all kinds of new things to share with you. So we're going to kick it all off with my favorite segment of the show, today's Deacon Moment.
Well, this may be my last Deacon Moment for a few weeks, and because we're heading into the beauty and stillness of Holy Week, I want to talk about silence for a moment. Sounds odd, doesn't it? Talk about silence. People who are advanced about such matters have convinced me that all of us need silence at times, quiet to hear God's voice in our hearts and minds. We need only look at our lives, never enough time, errands to run, places to go, things to buy, things to get rid of, things to listen to. One of the places that I heard this message is when I began to discover Madonna House and the writings of its founder, Catherine Doherty. I've gifted a few people that I care for the book called Pustynia, a Russian word which means desert. Catherine said we need to enter the desert so that we may encounter God in silence, solitude, and prayer. I think this is a most appropriate topic at this time of year. Let me share from an unusual writing, not from Catherine Doherty, but from a priest named Theophane the Monk. He's deceased now. He was in residence at the monastery in Snowmass, Colorado. I have met him. You wouldn't know him to be deep and silent because when he worked in the bookstore greeting visitors to the monastery, he would be jubilant and teasing and perhaps a bit mischievous. But you could discover that he knew about silence. And from a book he wrote called Tales of a Magic Monastery, I'd like to share this reflection. Once again, the author is Theophane the Monk, and this little piece is called The Great Silence. "Would you teach me silence?" I asked. "Ah," he seemed pleased. "Is it the great silence that you want?" "Yes, the great silence." "Well, where do you think it's to be found?" he asked. "Well, deep within me, I suppose. If only I could go deep within. I'm sure I'd escape the noise at last. But it's hard. Will you help me?" I knew he would. I could feel his concern, and his spirit was so silent. "Well, I've been there," he answered. "I've spent years going in. I did taste the silence there. But one day Jesus came, maybe it was my imagination, and he said to me simply, 'Come, follow me.' I went out and I've never gone back." I was stunned. "But the silence?" "Oh, I've found the great silence, and I've come to see that the noise was inside." These words, that message, as we come to a time of great silence. The thoughts are from Theophane the Monk. This is Deacon Tom. Blessings and peace.
Thanks so much, Deacon Tom, for that reflection. During the course of his reflection, you heard Deacon Tom mention two books, Pustynia, which is just an absolutely wonderful book he shared with me, and Tales of a Magic Monastery, which does not sound like a winner, too. I'm hoping to get my hands on that one relatively soon. We'll have links to both of those books in the show notes, and I want to thank you, Deacon Tom, for that wonderful reflection leading us into the period of Holy Week. I also want to mention to all of you that if you're listening to this podcast on the day that it comes out, April 1st, somebody is having a birthday tomorrow. Yes, our favorite deacon, Deacon Tom Fox, is going to be celebrating his birthday on April 2nd. So So if you're listening to this podcast anytime during the first week of April, why don't you drop over to Deacon Tom's website at www.deacontomonline.com and wish him all the best for his birthday. Thank you so much, Deacon Tom. And you did hear Deacon Tom as well make reference to a little break in the podcast, and that's the fact that we're going to be taking the next 2 weeks off from the Catholic Moments podcast while you enjoy the week of Holy Week and Easter week with your families. I'll be doing the same with mine, and Deacon Tom and Dee, I'm sure, will be as well. We're going to be doing some traveling over the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned to Twitter to see where I might be tweeting from, and I'll just leave it at that. But I want to thank you, Deacon Tom, for making Lent such a wonderful experience for me and for my family, and for all the reflections that you've shared with us. And we're looking forward to embracing the Easter season with your reflections as well. And next, let's hear from a good friend of mine, Pat Gone.
Hi, Pat Gone here, and I'm pleased to be hosting a new podcast called Among Women. To find it, go to amongwomenpodcast.com. Among Women celebrates the beauty and grace that women experience in their Catholic faith and life. Each week, we'll reflect on the wisdom of Catholic women through the ages, and then we'll visit with contemporary women like you and me as we dare to respond to Christ and the call to holiness in daily life. These are the stories of women by women. It's faith sharing, teaching, and conversation to encourage your spiritual life. AmongWomenPodcast.com. AmongWomenPodcast.com. Look for us on iTunes.
Thanks so much, Pat, for that promo for your new podcast. And again, you can find it at amongwomenpodcast.com. We'll have a link to it in the show notes, but I just want to give you a recommendation. You know, Pat is just absolutely one of my closest friends over the internet. We actually had the joy of meeting last year at the SQPN Catholic New Media Celebration, and it felt like I was meeting a sister because we've just shared such a wonderful friendship over the last several years through her affiliation with CatholicMom.com and her work, her writing. I have been such a fan of Pat's writing for years, and when you hear her voice, you know that she's absolutely just made to do a podcast. The blending of her wonderful spirituality, her training. She recently received her master's degree at Franciscan University at Steubenville, and she just has that incredible voice. I just eat it up. It's like chocolate. So, Pat, I'm so looking forward to the first episodes of the Among Women podcast, and I will definitely be sharing the good news about future episodes, but everybody head over to amongwomenpodcast.com. And while you're checking out new podcasts, some of you may have already heard it, but I wanted to announce to you that we have a great new podcast over at faithandfamilylive.com called the Faith and Family Livecast, and yours truly is involved in that one, so it's a little bit of self-promotion here to share with you the fact that I'm joining my fellow bloggers, Danielle Bean, Rebecca Teddy, Rachel Balducci, and Arwen Moser in this weekly podcast where we'll be having roundtable discussions about items of interest to Catholic families all over the place. So be sure to tune in for the Faith and Family Livecast, and you can head over to iTunes and search for that as well. And we'll have links to all these new podcasts in our show notes. I hope you'll join us. It's going to be a really fun new format. We've done 2 episodes of the Faith and Family Livecast so far, and just an absolute blast. And we'll be taking turns hosting those and really enjoying the time with one another. So I hope you'll check out both Pat Gone's new podcast and the Faith and Family Livecast. Before we jump into the interviews, I've got several more announcements for you, so grab a pencil and a piece of paper so that you can get a hold of all this great information that I want to share with you. The first thing is an announcement from our good friend, the nun blogger, Sister Anne Flanagan, and she shared the great news with me that Father Thomas Loya is going to be doing a class on Humanae Vitae, and this is going to be held on April 15th at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you're not living in Chicago, where Sister Ann is, don't worry, because this is actually going to be carried on Ustream. Through the magic of Ustream, Father Loyal will be presenting information on this important church document to all of us. And your questions on the document are being welcomed right now at the website of the conference, and that's at tobgroup.blogspot.com. And don't worry, we'll have links to this in our show notes at catholicmoments.com, so you can head over there for links and to learn more about this important conference on Humanae Vitae. And the next announcement is 2 contest announcements. We have a few more days for you to enter our Justin Fatica Hard as Nails book contest, and I hope you'll do that over at catholicmom.com. And then secondly, I want to let you know about a wonderful contest happening at the Catholic Company, and this is the annual 2009 Catholic Company First Communicant Photo Contest. So share your cutest or most wonderful, most special photo of your favorite first communicant, and you have a chance to win $100. And that's a $100 gift certificate to my favorite Catholic online bookstore, and that's the Catholic Company. So be sure to follow our show notes and follow the link over there to enter this contest. And I want to thank my friend Chris Cash for the opportunity to share this with you. And also to let you know that if you have your own blog or podcast, be sure to spread the word about this, because the winning referrer of whoever wins this contest, the person who referred them, also will be rewarded with a $50 gift certificate to the Catholic Company. So be sure to help spread the word about this great contest. There are going to be multiple winners, one $100 winner, and then 3 winners of $50 honorable mention gift cards. So check it out, and it's over at the Catholic Company. And our next announcements are about SQPN happenings, the StarQuest Production Network, and you know that we are happily an affiliate of SQPN.com. I want to really ask you to please spend some time prayerfully considering during this last week of Lent your support of the SQPN.com giving campaign. And I hope you'll join me and my family in contributing whatever you can to this important cause. The money that is raised this year will help us to continue to spread the word of God through this new media evangelization. And we all love so much the podcast that we hear through SQPN. Before I was ever a podcaster, I was a follower of Father Roderick and the wonderful work that Greg and Jennifer Willits were doing. And, you know, who could live without the Catholics in a Small Town podcast or the Catholic Family podcast, our wonderful priest, Father Bill Gessler, or Father Jay Finelli. Gosh, there are just too many great podcasts. Father Seraphim, I can't forget to mention him. So there are so many wonderful podcasts that are through the network. And we affiliates, you know, when you're donating this money, you're not donating it to Lisa or to Father Jay or to Mac and Catherine. You're donating it for SQPN and for the good of the organization. So your contribution, no matter how large or small, is very important to sending a sign of support for SQPN.com and for the mission of this. And I hope that if you haven't yet had a chance to donate to the giving campaign, that you'll stop right now and stop whatever you're doing and head over and make even a small donation would be very important. And I just want you to know that we're coming down to the wire, and that we really, really need your support. So I'm not great about asking for money, but in this case, it's a cause I firmly believe in, and I'm donating myself, so I hope you'll join me. And mentioning SQPN as well, they have a wonderful new concept. It's called Star Teams, and this is your opportunity as a podcast listener to help your favorite podcasters spread the word about the work that we're doing. And so these wonderful Star Teams are being formed to help you be sort of a street team to help spread the word. And this is as simple as downloading a PDF file of a poster that you can hang up in your parish or your favorite local coffee shop or wherever you think people might see it, with these little tags that can be torn off. And we have them for all of the individual shows as well as for SQPN.com, the network. So we'll have links in the show notes to the information about the giving campaign and also to the Star Teams information. I'm happy to share with you the following interviews. I will just let both of them play right through, but I want to give you a little bit of an introduction to them before we roll the interviews. The first interview is with a gentleman named Steve Moser, and I'm so happy to share before the interview a portion of a song that he wrote, and we'll discuss that during the interview, but I do want to play part of it beforehand, and then you'll know again that the song will be playing in full at the end of the podcast. It's absolutely beautiful song. God doesn't make mistakes, and get out your tissue because when you hear the song in full, it will really touch your heart. And then we'll go straight in after my interview with Steve to a little trailer for book promo that's going on for my next guest. And the guest following Steve will be Michael Sortino. And Michael is the author of a wonderful series of children's books, actually aimed at young readers and early middle school readers. And it's just a fascinating concept and a great series. So you'll hear a little trailer for his book promotions and then my interview with Michael Sortino. So here we go with the first interview, and this is with Steve Moser.
Staring at the ultrasound, the doctor shakes his head, says, "I'm sorry, but this baby has Down syndrome." And I know it's hard to decide, but she's so fragile that she'll probably die. And it might be a blessing if she did. Little did he know we're all the more blessed 'cause she lived. And no, she's never gonna look like the other kids, and she may not learn to talk like the other ones did. And I guess she's always gonna walk just a little behind, but I don't mind, 'cause she lives her whole life without one trace of guile, and she lights up the world with that crooked little smile, and she loves you with a love so pure it just makes your heart break. And I'd like to tell that doctor God doesn't make mistakes.
Next up on today's episode of Catholic Moments, I'm very happy to welcome my guest, Steve Moser, who has a wonderful song and is a full-time music minister, composer, producer, and artist. How are you today, Steve?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Well, you first came to my attention through a wonderful song that we're going to share a little bit later in the show today. But what I'd like to have you do, first of all, Steve, is just briefly introduce yourself and your family to our listening audience.
Sure. Well, I'm 51 years old, and my wife and I have been married for 25 years, and we live in a big Victorian house in Springfield, Massachusetts. We have 6 children, all of whom are homeschooled, and our youngest, Anna, who the song is about, that you're going to hear later, has Down syndrome. And I'm a Catholic convert. Actually, I'm a PK, which, if you know what that means.
No, I want to hear what that is.
That's actually a Protestant term. That's a preacher's kid.
Oh, my
my
goodness.
dad is a retired Baptist minister, but I came into the Catholic Church in 1999, and it was a couple of years after that our daughter, who has Down syndrome, was born, and that's who I wrote the song about. And I'm a full-time musician, as you said. That's how I support my family. I perform music, and I record my songs and sell them, and I also teach piano part-time as well.
What a great thing. You know, I want to talk first of all about your conversion. Maybe you can just share a little bit, because we have a lot of listeners who are either exploring the faith or are new to it. In just a few moments, can you share with us how you managed to find your way into the Catholic Church?
Well, that's a 10-hour show right there. But in brief, I was really not very religious at all. Growing up, I was very secular. And so part of it was just beginning to take my Christian faith more seriously. And once I did that, it wasn't that much of a journey from there to becoming Catholic. There were a number of issues, but I would probably say for me the number one issue was the pro-life issue. Mm-hmm. That even when I was a Protestant, I knew that the church, the Catholic Church, is uncompromising on the issue of life. So when, through just my own reason and then later on my Christian faith, realized the truth of the pro-life position, I obviously had to take a closer look at the Catholic Church, and then one thing led to another, and then that's how I ended up here.
So wonderful. And I want you to share with our listeners a little bit of the motivation behind this wonderful song, God Doesn't Make Mistakes, how the song was written and sort of what's happened with it since then.
Sure. Well, it's a true story. My wife was pregnant with our sixth child, and we went to the doctor's office with all the kids. They were very excited because they were going to have a little sibling, and they wanted to know if it was going to be a boy or a girl. And we went in and crowded into this darkened ultrasound room, and the technician was spending a very long time looking over the images, and we kept asking, is it a boy or a girl? And because my wife and I had been through this many times, and it seemed pretty clear to us that it was a girl, but the technician wouldn't answer our questions, and finally brought in the doctor, who sort of did the same thing, spent a long time looking at the images but not really answering our questions. Mm-hmm. Finally, the doctor asked the children to leave the room, and that was the point at which we kind of realized something was wrong. And the doctor told us about the various indicators that showed that the baby had Down syndrome, had a very serious heart defect. There were other health problems as well, and probably wasn't going to make it to term. And we were left in the dark room to, as the doctor said, to make our decision, essentially. And, of course, they suggested, not that anyone forced us, but there was, of course, the suggestion that abortion was, of course, an option. Mm-hmm. And for us, and particularly for me, having just come into the church precisely because of the pro-life issue, we knew that we were going to keep this baby.
Right.
Now, having said that, I don't want to leave the impression that means it was easy. It was very difficult. We were very much alone. We weren't referred to any support group or anything like that. Our families are fairly secular, and we couldn't really share with them because we figured they weren't going to understand what we were going through. But we brought the baby to term, and it was very touch and go after she was born. She eventually did have heart surgery, and she was in intensive care after she was born. My wife spent, around the clock with her, sleeping in a chair next to her bed through blood transfusions and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very difficult.
And now Anna is 6 years old?
She just turned 6. But a few years after we got through it all, I decided just to write a song to sort of summarize everything we had been through. And it was just initially intended as a birthday present to my wife. I just made a simple demo of myself singing it and gave it to my wife for her birthday. And then soon after that, friends of ours started hearing this and saying, hey, Steve, you gotta get this thing out there and got to get people hearing this thing because this is a very important song. So then I spent some time as a producer, recording someone else singing it, and doing a nice polished version of it, which is what you have now.
Yes. And, it first came to my attention through YouTube, through some people who have shared it with me. And that brings on a whole new dimension when you take it not only from the music, but also to a very visual experience. Now, did you put together the YouTube video, or did someone else do that for you?
That's my daughter. My daughter, Eliza, who is 14, mm-hmm. She put that together herself. And she did a great job. And it mixes both still photos and some live action footage as well. And it just really captures the whole mood of it. If you listen to the song, it really is the true life story. It's very much true to life, exactly what happened. And so it really captures really captures a moment in time for us.
What an amazing thing. And we do have to give some credit, too, to the wonderful artist, Carolee McGrath, who does the singing on it. And I know that it must be such a treat to be able to write such beautiful words and then to hear them performed in such a lovely fashion.
Yeah, I sing a little bit. I'm not really a great singer. I sing pretty good. But it's wonderful to hear something you've written really come to life with someone who really knows how to sing. And she is a very, very good singer, and she did a wonderful job with this.
Well, I want to refer our listeners again over to your websites. Steve has 2 websites. You can visit him at newfamilymusic.com and then also at newweddingmusic.com, where you'll hear a lot of the wedding-related music that Steve has produced. And let's switch gears for just a minute and talk about the weddings and how you participate in that sacrament of matrimony through the gift of your music.
Well, that really started with one song. A song from my son, which made a bit of history, actually, about, it must be about 17 years ago now. My business partner, Mickey Varick, and I wrote the first song in history for the mother and groom dance. There's actually a lot of copycats out there now, but we were the first ones to do that. I'm sure when you were growing up, you knew how the father of the bride would dance with the bride song, Daddy's Little Girl. But there was never a song for the mother and the groom. And we wrote the first one in history, and it made a big splash. We were in People magazine and on the Today Show, and Dear Abby wrote about us. We were on TVC and Lifetime Television, a whole bunch of other things. And that really sort of started our whole company, which is New Traditions. And then from there, we started writing other music as well for different parts of the wedding. And now my new website, which is New Family Music, is really sort of a subset of new wedding music. I'm now promoting music that isn't specifically wedding-oriented, but it's family-oriented. In some ways it's compatible, but it gives me a little more freedom to do things if I want to do religious music and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think families out there are looking for that kind of music that they can enjoy together that really has a great message.
Absolutely. There's so little now on the radio. I know when I was growing up, you could turn on the radio and not have to worry about the lyrics, first of all. But it was the whole age range. It wasn't this kind of generation battle that is sort of forced on everyone. I mean, you would hear songs for young kids, you would hear songs for the older people, all on the same channel when I was growing up. And that has very much changed, which I'm sad to say. So in my small way, I'm hoping to help change that.
I always have to ask musicians who some of your favorite people to listen to are. When you load up your iPod, who are some of your favorites on there?
Well, if you were to look at my CD collection, most of it is actually classical music.
Really?
I was a huge classical fan my whole life. Some of my earliest memories, like when I was 4 years old, were sitting on the couch and listening to Beethoven symphonies. I know that sounds silly, but that's really what I always liked. But I've always had an attraction to melody, songs with a very good melody. And so as far as pop music, I always gravitated towards things like the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel. Burt Bacharach is a big favorite of mine, Henry Mancini. I always loved melody. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, again, something that's lacking a lot of today's music. There's 3 elements to music. You have melody, harmony, and rhythm. And today's music, the rhythm, in many ways, just eclipses the sense of melody. They're all important, but for me, I love melody first. And I try to write that way, and that's what I like to listen to as well.
Well, it sounds that you've studied at the feet of the master, so that I'm sure comes into a lot of play in your composition and in the work that you're doing. Well, Steve, I want to thank you again for just a fabulous introduction to your music, and we'll have links in our show notes again for everybody to go over and check out Steve's music, and we're going to close out now with his wonderful song, God Doesn't Make Mistakes, and I hope that you'll take time to view the YouTube video of this as well that we'll have listed along with this podcast. And I want to thank you, Steve, and please thank your wife for sharing her birthday gift with the rest of us, and please give a hug to your lovely daughter Anna for me.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too.
Hey, this is Teddy Jarvis again. there's one really important thing I need to tell you. Crackers are on sale, half off this week. So please, please support my school. You know, crackers aren't only good for soup. They're also pretty good on pizza and in ice cream. I tried it in my cereal once. Wasn't that good, but it wasn't that bad either. Well, I think I hear him coming. Catch you later.
Next up on today's episode of Catholic Moments, I'm very happy to introduce our guest, Michael Sortino, who is a Catholic dad and the author of a great new series for kids, Teddy Gyros, Kid Vampire Slayer. How are you today, Michael?
I'm doing great, Lisa. Thank you.
Good. Want to have you start off, before we get into the books, talking a little bit more about yourself and your family, if you'd just like to briefly introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background on you and your history.
Sure, no problem. I'm, like you mentioned, I'm a father of 4 children, and they are 12, 11, let's see, I got to pass this test. 12, 11, 7, and 6. They're, the thing about age is that it's always changing. Gosh, it's not like one fixed answer. But 3 girls and 1 boy, and my wife and we met in the Life Teen program, actually in the 2nd parish in the country to do it at St. Maria Goretti in Scottsdale, Arizona. And wonderful springtime of our faith, and we felt really blessed to be able to have a great program to grow in and learn what it means to truly love. And so this vision for our family, and having a good Catholic, strong family was kind of born there. And, we both went to Arizona State University. I was a theater major, then English major, because all the plays that I would be called back for, I wouldn't want my parents, grandmother, or anyone else who knew me to see me.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's a good school, and definitely it's like a city in itself, but the program was a little too liberal for my likes. So I thought, go ahead and switch over to literature and creative writing and screenwriting, and develop the material that someday people will be reading, producing, and using to shape this culture of ours.
Michael, I wanted to ask you about this wonderful book that you've written, and I have to say to our listeners that it came highly recommended to me by one of my favorite sources, which is Mark Hart, and we all know him and his writing so well, and I know that he and Michael go back a ways. Tell us a little bit more about the inspiration for the book, and how it all came together, and a little bit more about the story.
Yeah, definitely. I love reading, and I really encourage all my kids to read, and as my oldest has special needs, and so her reading level, she's a great reader, but it progresses a little bit behind my son. So I use my son as the lead there. He's 11, and so I watched the kind of books that he was bringing home, and there's only so much you can. So many times you can have your child reread the Narnia series.
Right.
It's like, Joey, why don't you go ahead and pick those up again? And it's he's too young for for Tolkien. And so early on in life, I love to read, and I saw the power of story and how it affects people's lives, and how it can inspire you. It can, someone can tell you to do something, but if and you might resist it, but if you're inspired to do it, or to live a certain way, or to embody a certain value, if you're moved to it by an experience of either a movie or a book, then it leaves this imprint on you. And so I wanted that for my kids, and there's good books out there, and yet not good enough. I'm pretty picky, and so I decided, I'd been doing screenwriting, and I'd been writing a lot of stuff that basically they couldn't read, only because it's not for kids. I try and have a great message and a theme in everything I do, and try and have a good underlying values. So I thought let's jump into kids fiction and have something that we can use for my own kids and hopefully all families out there.
So introduce us to Teddy and what happens in this first chapter of the story.
Yeah, Teddy. It's funny because he's pretty much modeled after my son. He's an average kid. He's an average 10-year-old boy who just wants to be an average 10-year-old boy, and yet he has a gift that hasn't been aware of until recently, and in that he can actually see vampires. It's I know it's a bit pop culture-ish, mm-hmm. but it's definitely an allegory for the spiritual battle. So basically, Teddy he enters after an incident in where he had been growing up in New York. They decide as a family it's best to move away, and so he enters this small town called Wetaupati, Minnesota, and he has to readjust the whole family. I decided to make it a big, strong family with, I believe, 5 children. Mm-hmm. Don't ask me their ages. No, but he, so he's in a family. The parents are together. I wanted to show a family going through normal stuff, and yet have it be thrilling and exciting to throw this mystery and this twist into Teddy's life, that he has a gift, and so he picks up on this evil force surrounding old Mrs. Wither's house. He does something that all our kids are forced to do by our wonderful schools, mm-hmm. which is fundraise, and so he has to go sell crackers, day one of being there, and he's kind of challenged to see if he can sell any to the crankiest woman in town, and it turns out there's a reason why, and that's the mystery that unfolds, and Teddy gets pulled in and to try and help her and see what's really going on, and there's a deep there's definitely the theme of book 1 is all about how pain and bitterness creates walls around us and divides families, but forgiveness and love can break those walls down, and it's not as hard as you think, and that the evil, the devil, or in this case this vampire feeds off of it's not like the old Bram Stoker tales with blood and gore and all that. Mm-hmm. It feeds off the pain and the bitterness and the fear that this woman has, and that's what makes him stronger, and that's what makes her weaker, And so it's Teddy unlocking that and helping, and it parallels in his own life as well. So every story he grows as well. He has to deal with the bitterness he has towards his parents for making them move away from his make this big move, and so it's definitely got a lot of twists and turns and fun excitement. So kids don't even realize they're learning this lesson along the way.
They're getting this moral message. It sounds like one of these books. My kids are a little bit older now, but I used to, every night sit with them and read for quite a long time. And the books like yours, like the one you're describing, I loved reading them as much as my kids, and something that a parent can really get into as much as the kid that they're sharing it with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been neat to have the parents and hear their comments and say how they loved it, and they're begging for book 2 and wanting to know answers, and and I would leave a copy at the parish office for someone, and then the whole staff would be pulling me over next time. All ages,
And now they're in demand for book number 2. The first book is in the series, Teddy Gyros, Kid Vampire Slayer. It's called Book 1. It begins. And I know that you can track it down on Amazon. We'll have links to it in our show notes. Michael also has a website, which is called sortinomedia.com, and we'll definitely link to that as well, Michael. And one of the cute things on your website is some of the videos that you put together. Tell us just a bit about those.
Yeah, we become such a visual society that, not many people want to read a description about a book. So my son and I decided to film a couple of trailers to promote the book, and it was a blast. And, as a parent, there's always limited time to do everything. So these were like, in between soccer practice and dinner, or RE and religious. It's like, Joey, come over here quick, and put this on, and But he got into it. It was a blast.
Oh yeah, I think he's a born actor, and I'm sure he's one of your toughest critics. What does he think of Teddy in the story?
Well, he definitely thinks it's my best work so far.
Great.
Yeah, so he loves it, and he's excited. And that's the great thing too, is that I have these wonderful kids, even the little ones. They just love it. Story has become a part of our family. We love to tell stories, and they're great. They're totally honest with their reactions and how they are affected by it. And obviously, that Christ, that he's obviously the parables and all that that's definitely my inspiration and goal, is to use story as a way to affect people's lives, break down those barriers and lead them to Christ,
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and I'm so excited to see terrific material like this for young boys, because I think that in our culture there tend to be more things written for girls at this age, I think, than boys. So it's great to have some great moral and also really fun and exciting stories to share with them. And I also just want to make reference real quickly, Michael, to an article that I've read that you wrote for Catholic Exchange, and just kind of talking a little bit more about how, we're sending our kids eventually out into a battle with evil, whether we try to shelter them when they're young, but eventually, they're going to be making choices as they go out there. So how, can sharing stories like this, or raising our kids within the faith, kind of help prepare them for what they're going to see out there in the real world?
Yeah, I think it can have a tremendous effect and help. Just like you had said, you read together with your children, and I'm always quizzing my kids on so what are you reading now, and what's going on in that story, and it's such a great way to launch into a discussion about, well, do you ever feel that, or do you ever face that in life, or do you ever notice? And like I said earlier, that good media, whether it's film or books or whatnot, it leaves this imprint on you, and it helps. It actually, helps to whether we realize it or not, to shape our character, and that's why equally as effective is the bad media. So what I'm trying to do is to provide, and there's a lot of other good people out there doing the same thing, trying to provide good sources, a safe place for parents to come to have media that will reinforce what they're trying to instill in their parents. And you're right, there's not a lot as a Catholic parent that you could say, okay, I know I can trust this, and this can be a good basis for helping reaffirm and build on what I want my kids to know as they go out and face the world. And really, and like I had said, or touched on just briefly, and you'll see in the book, is that it's those deep core issues that make that matter the most in life, and a lot of times we get distracted by external things, or money, or our possessions or whatnot. But it's all, it comes down to love. And we all want to be loved, and these relationships that we have with each other, and the family especially, is the core of it all. And I think that's where we're attacked the most by the devil, is our families. He wants to divide us because we fall when we're divided. But when we're united, we can stand against him and fulfill our mission in life. And so this is what we're trying to do with, and what Teddy learns, especially in Book 1, is how to overcome those very subtle evil influences, and he feels firsthand the power of forgiveness and how that reunites us, And so there's more. Book 2 deals with self-esteem, and how we, pride versus the true worth that we have as a child of God. So that's book 2 and book 3, and so on. We'll all take a nice core issue that you can immediately relate to and discuss with your child.
Well, I want to thank you, Michael, for writing such a great series and truly to support what you're doing right now so that we can see more of this and possibly even a full feature movie in the future. I know that it looks to me like this story has all the makings for something like that. So I want to wish you all the best in what you're doing and encourage you and let you know that you have my prayers and my support. And I'm going to ask my listeners to go over and to buy their copy of Teddy Gyro's Kid Vampire Slayer. And again, we'll have links to the purchase material for that and how you can visit Michael's website. Michael, we wish you all the best in everything that you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having me. I certainly, thank the Lord for the opportunity to use our gifts to bring people to Him and bring healing in the world.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Bye. So that's about it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed those interviews and that you'll head over to the websites to visit both Steve and Michael and the great work that they're doing. I've really enjoyed my conversations with them and have had fun checking out their websites and enjoying the wonderful fruits of their labor. So be sure to do that. In the meantime, I hope you'll run over to SQPN.com, join the STAR team, and support the giving campaign. And as we end up our Lenten season, I do want to again thank Deacon Tom Fox for his reflections and again wish him a very happy birthday tomorrow. I hope that everybody out there has a wonderful Holy Week and a wonderful week after Easter. We'll be rejoining one another in the middle of April, so be on the lookout for new episodes then. And in the meantime, this is a really good time to go back and catch up on some of our previous interviews. We've had so many great ones recently, and there are others lined up to share with you when I get back in April. And I'm going to close out this week's show with the entire song by Steve Moser, God Doesn't Make Mistakes. I hope that you'll enjoy it and that you and your family will have a wonderful break, and you'll be in my prayers. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.
Lying in the dark, staring at the ultrasound. The doctor shakes his head, says, I'm sorry, but this baby has Down syndrome, and I know it's hard to decide, but she's so fragile that she'll probably die. And it might be a blessing if she did. Little did he know we're all the more blessed 'cause she lived. And no, she's never gonna look like the other kids, and she may not learn to talk like the other ones did. And I guess she's always gonna walk just a little behind, but I don't mind, 'cause she lives her whole life without one trace of guile, and she lights up the world with that crooked little smile, and she loves you with a love so pure it just makes your heart break. And I'd like to tell that doctor, God doesn't make mistakes. Sitting in the park, watching all the children play. My daughter walks up, they get quiet and a little afraid, but pretty soon the smiles come
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.